man. How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, buddy? Well, welcome back to Cross Creek Cut. I'm Brad.
I'm Kyle.
Today, we're bringing to you something that's really interesting. They always said if you build it, they will come, right?
That's exactly what we're doing, Brad. We're back here building a factory.
It's the field of dreams right here at Cross Creek Ag. So, what we're talking about, this factory we're building, all goes into this year. And inside this year has been a big topic over the last 2 or 3 years. Kyle, everybody's been discussing big issues with vomitoxin.
Yep.
And the challenges that come with that. And it seems to be a conversation that we're getting more and more. And as we near harvest, all of a sudden now we're getting phone calls. What's going on with vomitoxin? Are we going to see it this year? Weather depends on that, but there are some key factors that you guys should know that go into that. And the biggest thing is the back end of the story really is if you look at it takes about a 15-day ability past the R1 time frame. So Kyle, when these plants are starting to emerge tassels and emerge the fact that the silks are coming out, in those 15-day time period, if we get temperatures from 59 degrees to 86 degrees and relative humidity is above 80-90%, that creates the actual environment for the pathogen of dawn and vomitoxin and gibberella ear molds to basically proliferate into it.
Right, and that's really been kind of the common what we've been having going on, and I think what we're going to continue to see is elevated temperatures, higher humidities. So, if we can't change that, we can't control the weather. What can we control?
Right. I mean, that's a big issue. So what are the 5 key components? The 5 key components that we look at right now that are causing some of these issues that we can actually do some things on our end to affect are improved pollination. We can figure out how to do a better job of improving our pollination by keeping the plant healthy before pollinating. The other thing is lowering population. All seed guys going to tell everybody to lower pops, right?
Right.
That really sells a lot more seed, but that is a big thing, lowering the population, allowing the plant to not stress out as much. The other part is nitrogen management. What are you doing on your farm to manage your nitrogen, to have nitrogen available throughout the season, not all at once and not all up front or maybe all at the fall time frame? What are you doing to actually allow that plant to have good nitrogen management through the whole entire year? Another thing is fungicide timing. We're not big on using fungicides blanket. I'm not a big fan of watching the Ag Air Force dive in and just apply it just for the giggles of it. We're looking at what are those time frames, when do you actually need it, and do you need it? And then be able to make that application at the right time and just not spending that 30-40 bucks an acre just for the giggles of it, just
right.
hoping it helps. And the biggest seed component is hybrid selection. Hybrid selection is a big issue. And Kyle, I'm going to pass it off to you for that, and I'm going to come back and talk about improved pollination, beyond that time period. But I'm going to let you kind of talk about, we have a competitive ear right here. We pulled out of this field behind us. Kyle's got another Beck's ear right there of 6280 Tricepta, and I'm going to have him kind of talk to you guys about what are we looking at.
Yeah, so with hybrid selection, Brad, there's a lot of different things that go into that. Our product team at Beck's does a great job for us, kind of giving us that information that we need. 2 things that I think, among the many, 2 things that we can really control would be, like you said, that hybrid selection, looking at that data that those guys are using and just knowing the overall kind of, gibberella tolerance or kind of score that those hybrids have. But maybe more importantly, it comes down to hybrid characteristics. By that I mean a tight or a closed husk versus a flared husk, being able to kind of get some air in there, get some movement going. So as you guys can see here, we've got an example of what would be a really tight closed husk. You can see there it's pinched off. That's probably not going to flare out. Where this one here, we're already starting to kind of flare out. We're starting to open up. So those 2 things right there, I think are vital to, if you have had an issue, if you're keeping some feed for grain, or if you're keeping your grain to feed to livestock, or, you've been getting docked at the elevator, what are some small things that we can start talking about in the upcoming sales season to, set you up for success?
Yeah. And in doing that, we talk about the pinched husk here of this one right here. You look at a lot of the times what we see is that husk that's actually not flared, and maybe the last tip of the year, you can kind of feel in here, and we'll pull it back a little bit. They may not be fully pollinated, so those silks, because of the health of the plant, or maybe even applying fungicide, those silks remain green at the tip of the year. With those silks remaining green and not turning brown, everybody's like, oh, the plant's healthy. Well, it is, but the problem is, you can see right here, this tip didn't get pollinated. You can see right here, look at these silks. These silks are still green. They're not brown. They didn't pollinate. Those ovules are not pollinated. So what's happened is those silks are remaining green. That's an open infection site for vomitoxin, gibberella ear mold, to start working its way down the tube of that silk into the cob. And all ear molds, guys, are cob rot. I mean, they're cob rot. So keeping a healthy plant, a healthy shank, a healthy cob equals a healthy kernel. And so when we have that actually getting into that cob because of the silk still being green and that husk pinched off, you're going to get more of that rot to come in. Next thing is we're talking about improved pollination. So what I'm a big component of is obviously foliar feeding these plants and getting these plants to actually have in this factory to have just great overall health. We talked to you guys many times about videos of how important the in-furrow is, the 2x2, what we're doing with side dress or Y drop, and that all goes into nitrogen management and the root growth. But what we go beyond that is once we get to about V8, for you and I, we're both tall guys. I mean, V8's normally about, 3.5, 4 foot tall
Right.
corn, or we start looking at the canopy start closing. Once that canopy closes from V8 to V12, that time period, we're determining how long, how many ovules, how many kernels long that ear is going to be. And at that point in time, keeping that plant healthy and keeping that plant from getting any kind of stress will help set you up for the point in time when they're pollinating. They're going to pollinate the way the good Lord intended it to be, is actually merging that tassel at the right time, the silks at the right time, marrying up what we call the nick, the pollination of when that's going to shed pollen into the tube of the silk and actually pollinate the ear. But that foliar pass, we've had almost 4 years of data behind that pass now at V8 to V12, and every year it's made us money. I mean, it's just been like clockwork, and we never could understand why. And this year was the first year that made sense to me for the first time ever. We always thought it kept the plant healthy into pollination, but really the big reason I think is now we understand some of this silk emergence and actually keeping the pollination healthy is we've been able to get that plant stress primed to where it was able to handle the stresses, the reduced oxidation. It's keeping the nutrients going through the root and allowing that plant to be able to be healthy getting into pollination. So it's super important when we look at that. We've got to have a healthier pollination to be able to get all those kernels to pollinate and allow that husk to flare. Because anything that we have beyond that is just a reduce of oxidation, which is a reduction and or increase in stress. So the more stress we have on the plant, your pollination is not going to be near as good. So we threw a lot at you there really quick, and there's a lot of things going on out here. But if you guys have questions at any point in time, call myself, Kyle, our team. Get a hold of us, get a hold of agronomists, give us a call. We'll walk you through some of the things we learned, things we are learning. But we'll be doing more testing in our own fields where we apply this, especially on this field right here.
Yep.
That's actually a corn-on-corn test facility or test field. We'll have places in this field where we don't have application of any foliars. Where we do, we'll be actually sending off the test of these hybrids to look at what the actual vomitoxin scores are on certain hybrids in and out of the test and also within our field. So thanks, guys. Be safe. And at any point in time, you guys give us a holler and we'll be sure to take care of you guys. And we're going to jump back in the field and disappear for a while. So you all take it easy.
Thanks, guys.